Why do you think Mick never commented on all the nasty things, dog shit in the doorway, his solo album, Keith said about him?
Well, he was right, of course. It was a sensible thing to do. It's like with the royal family, that the press may suddenly be anti the royal family. The royal family say nothing. The furor dies away, and everyone likes them again, you know. And it was the same with that book and Mick. He just didn't respond. He was dignified, in fact. And people now just think it was rather stupid of Keith to say that.
Really last question. How come the Stones are associated, and actually, well, many people who have been acquainted with the Stones, Graham Parsons, Brian Jones, many people have died. Is it dangerous being around them?
It was, yes, because Keith Richards has this amazingly strong constitution. It seems that he can abuse his body in any way, and he still seems to thrive on it somehow. But that's not true of other people who try to keep up with him in drug taking or drinking, whatever it was. They couldn't. And Brian Jones was a very mixed up character and a very paranoid character. He was the author of his own misfortunes in many ways. And the Stones were not to blame for his death, and they hadn't treated him cruelly or anything like that. They treated him very well. But in the end, it was Keith, who was so quiet and so modest for so long, who turned out to be the real rock and roll rebel. And not, you know, Brian looked like that when he was young, but couldn't stay the distance, didn't have the stamina.
You've also written a biography about John Lennon. Who do you like more?
John, you know, is tremendously lovable. You can't, you know, witness the fact that billions of people love him still. Mick is more admirable than lovable. But they're like the sort of the two totemic figures of, you know, the 60s. And they were actually good friends themselves. They liked each other, despite being so opposite.
But why didn't John Lennon return the calls to Mick Jagger when they lived in New York?
That was a new experience for Mick, yes, to be sort of snubbed by someone. He was rather good at doing that himself. I think it was when John really wanted to totally renounce the music business. But he never did renounce it. He was always making tapes and listening to music.
I think the book has been released a few years ago. Have you found out new things about John Lennon?
I haven't really been trying to, but things do come along all the time, yes, because this story goes on, the story of the Beatles goes on, of course.
Is there one thing that you said, well, that's been said in recent years that you didn't know while writing the book?
Paul McCartney said something the other day that was very, very funny about when they were teenagers, to do with John's short-sightedness. I'd never heard that. It just was terribly funny and terribly like John, you know. Never heard that at all. McCartney had never told the story before, to my knowledge.
What was the story?
John had been, at Christmas time, John had been practicing at Paul's house, and he walked back to his house late at night. And the next morning he said, passing that house on the corner, the funny people live in that house. They were outside at midnight last night, playing cards in the front garden. And Paul said, it doesn't sound like the people who live in that house would do that, you know. And he went to check on the house, and what it was that it was near Christmas, and they had a nativity scene set up on the front lawn. Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus. And John had thought it was people playing cards.
Will you be writing another, well, book about a big rock star from the 60s?
I don't think I think it's just these few names that everybody in the world seems to be touched by. And however big another band became, like The Who or anybody, it's not the same as the Beatles and the Stones, and maybe Elton John, who I've done, Buddy Holly, who was like the person who started the whole thing. I think that's it. Bob Dylan, maybe.